What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and welcome to another build update video. And today we're taking a look at my IG build updates. Now, I currently have three distinct IG builds, one which is for more grounded play, one more oriented towards aerial play, and then elemental IG, which is what I'm primarily playing most of the time. But before we jump into those, I wanted to talk about a new combo I've been doing a lot, and that's the one you see on screen right now. And then I also want to have a brief discussion about earplugs with Glaive. Now, strong descending thrust into strong double slash into strong descending slash is a combo that we can only initiate coming down from the air, but it gives us basically back-to-back offsets, and it is one of our strongest combos available. This is something that I only started doing more recently because I kept getting messed up in my combos, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. What's going on here? But basically, when we are doing the charge B from the air, from that, it'll go into a strong double slash, and then from there we can like tornado slash, and we can, after a brief delay, go back into our YYY combo. But instead, when we release B for the descending thrust, if we just release and start holding it again, we can get the back-to-back offsets. Let me show what I'm talking about here. And then from there, we could chain back into the Y combo with just even more fluidity. And so what we're actually doing here, when I evolve, I'm just like that. All I'm doing is, I'm like basically the second that I let go of B, I start pressing again. So holding B, let go, hold. So what we're doing there is we are letting out the input for strong descending thrust, queuing up strong descending slash, and then while strong descending slash builds up, we weave in a strong double slash, giving us the BYB combo. And that thing, man, it pumps some serious damage. So I've been doing that a lot, especially if you're trying to chase a monster down. It is very nice getting the back-to-back offsets. Those are some of our most damaging moves. And then, obviously, if you see the opportunity, you can chain into Rising Spiral Slash out of either of those. So just wanted to cover that briefly. But from there, let's talk about earplugs. Now, when it comes to earplugs, this is something that was in the previous IG build. We go over to weapon controls, extract effects, and you can see alter some attacks, reducing wind pressure, tremors, and roars. Now, in the past games, we usually only needed to get a little bit of earplugs, like one or two, and then we'd have max earplugs. It turns out they have kind of changed it. I mean, now earplugs is only a 3-point skill instead of a 5-point skill, but we're only getting 1 point of earplugs from white, red, orange. And I already had an earplug deco, so I assumed we were immune to roars. It turns out we're only immune to weak roars. Now, we'll take a look at the full monster list. Obvious spoilers here. But going to the monster field guide, if we go through the monsters, we can see, and this is a very big change from World, most monsters only have weak roars now. Uthduna is a weak roar. Raydao is weak. Garen is weak. Wrath is weak. Rathian is weak. Rathalos is weak. Arkveld is weak. And so the only monsters that actually have strong roars are going to be Gormagala, Gravios, Jindahad, and then the final boss. So with that being said, is it worth a single point of earplugs in IG? Honestly, I think yes. You're going to be roar immune against 86% of the roster for a single point. And if you wanted to be roar immune against everything, you could slot in a second point. But either way, I wanted to touch base on that. I do still think the 1 point is worth it, even if it is not full earplug supremacy. And, if we're up against, if we're going against Gravios or whatever, we could always just slot in a second one. But either way, all that being said, let's jump in and talk about the builds. Now, as I mentioned, these first two are going to be physical builds, and this one's called Aerial and Glaive because I play Aerial more common with this. But so this build, we are working with Ardian. Ideally, you go pure attack on Ardian, and you want to try and get one sharpness roll. There are mods out on the Nexus where you can basically through RE framework just modify your Ardian weapons with whatever reinforcements you want, which is actually really nice from a testing perspective. But this one has been modified to get exactly what I wanted on it. This would be your ideal end goal. If you're, on console, you can, re-roll until you find something that's going to be 4 attack sharpness. But this is ideally what I would recommend for a Blast Ardian IG. Now, if you don't have that, alternatively, Queen Regalia is still an incredibly good insect glaive. I think this is one of the best insect glaives in the game, and it would work with this exact setup as well because it has double the white that we have on the Arty and IG. So if you don't want to deal with Arty and rolling or whatever the case is, Queen Regalia is an excellent substitution, and we can slot in roughly the same gems because we're not going to need razor sharp with this since it is double the white sharpness. Now, moving on from there, in terms of gear, Gore Alpha, Gore Male Alpha, Gore Greaves Alpha, Arc Vulcan Coil, and Arc Vulcan Van Braces. And so we are bringing the 2 points of Arc Vulcan for the Wex. We're doing 3 pieces of Gore because that is going to give us access to Master Mounter, which I really like with IG. And when we pull all this together, Challenger Charm, by the way, we're going to have Wex 5, Evade Window 4, Divine Blessing 3, Antivirus 3, 2 points of Agitator, a spare point of Burst, which is coming in from our decorations, and then Recovery Speed, some Coalescence, Earplugs, Self-Improvement, and Shock Absorber. And all in all, this is pretty solid. With all of our buffs firing off, we get to 293 attack damage on our sheet, up from 237 that you see right there, and our total affinity is at 35%. So definitely a very respectable setup in terms of the damage output that it can do. And then on top of that, we obviously have Master Mounter, and then we have the Flight Jewel in as well, so we're doing 10% more damage in the air, and you're going to get a lot of mounts with this. With this build, solo, I'm hitting 5 to 6 mounts per hunt on average if I like actually going for them. In multiplayer, I'm getting no less than 3 per hunt. So if you like mounting monsters, this is the IG build for you. Now, if you want a more grounded IG setup, that is where my comfy insect glaive build comes in. And this one isn't going to have as much of an aerial focus, but it will still handle damage. It'll just do it mostly from the ground. Once again, with this one, I would suggest running a Blast Ardian, or alternatively with the Queen Regalia. Either way, you're going to want to go for a more critical focus with this particular setup. And so we're going to go Guardian Fulgar Helm, Arc Vulcan Male, Guardian Arcfeld Van Braces, Arc Vulcan Coil, and then Guardian Arcfeld Greaves. So pulling this all together, we're going to have Wex 5, we're going to have Agitator 5, we're going to have Max Might at 2, we're going to have that single point of Earplug. We have a lot of level 1 deco flexibility, so we can pick up Adaptability, Self-Improvement, and Shock Absorber. And what I really like about this is we're picking up Haste and Recovery 1 and Decimator 1. And even though Flayer is kind of cheeks and we're not working with it anymore, I still think Decimator still has a lot of value. It's just, Decimator's just nice, you know, getting a heal anytime you pop a wound, and we're chasing wounds with IG because we want to get our Kinsect spec. So I really like this. Now, if you don't care at all about that heal, you're like, I don't need it, I don't need the heal, give me something else. Well, Arc Vulcan Male, this one stays. This is 2 points Wex, so that's staying. And then this is 2x11, so that's still high value. If for some reason you don't want the heal, which is what we're getting out of this, because this is effectively like Elemental Absorb isn't helping us here. So think of this as just like a 3-2-1. You could take this and instead you could swap it out for the Udra Greaves. Well, you could either, no, you don't need the Agitator. Where did the Udra Greaves go? Why can I not find my Udra Greaves? Those are Gore. Udra, right there. We could swap it in for this, and that's effectively a 3-3-1. And so that would give us a single point of burst, which would give us more DPS. And then with that additional level 3, you could do whatever you want. You could put whatever you want in there. But so that would be the alternative. Basically, we're sacrificing the 1 point of burst, the sacrifice we're getting from that on IG, that comes out to 8 raw. So I could get 8 raw, but is 8 raw really worth giving up my Decimator? That's a decision you have to make. Now, moving on to the build that I like the most, and this is the Elemental IG setup, which, by the way, for both of these builds, if you're like, hey, what Kinsect do I recommend? Either the Fiddlebricks or the Archmaiden. These have been my go-to Kinsects for all physical builds. Having Fast Charge and Harvest Extract is just, it's super convenient, man. The start of a hunt, you send this thing out, you have all 3 of your extracts, you're ready to rock and roll. You can't go wrong with it. But moving on to the Elemental IG builds. Oh, and in this, by the way, Expert, Critical, Razor Sharp. So this is a interesting equation real fast. So the baseline of this build gets up to 52% affinity, then 284 raw with everything firing off. If you take out earplugs, we can get up to 62% by putting Max Might up at level 3, which could be worth it, just depends on your playstyle. the higher and closer we get to 100% crit, the more value we would have from maxing out critical over going with expert. Where we're at right now, in terms of the math, expert is going to win. But if you are consistently hitting weak points, like I mean every single attack is hitting a weak point, you would be better off maxing crit boost over going for the expert jewel 3. Moving on from there, though, to... There we go. The elemental IG builds. Now, these are fun. Now, this is a standard elemental template. And what I mean by that is you can take this element. I mean, it works with Charge Blade. It works with Sword and Shield. It's going to work with Switch Axe. Obviously, Fire or Dual Blades and Bow have the same build they had previously. But this elemental template is the tits. It will work with any elemental weapon. It has good flexibility, and it is extremely solid. So let's talk about it. In terms of your weapon, for IG, I still like Razor Sharp. I like Charge quite a lot here, just to pump a little more elemental damage on those charge attacks, but this is kind of a flex slot. You could go with whatever you want here, but to be honest, I don't want just more crit. I don't want to do it. This is an elemental build. I want to take something that's going to help elemental, and that's why we have Charge Handicrafting. And then obviously you're going to want your element. So in this case, I got Razor Sharp handy, Charge handy, and Dragon handy, which is very nice because it's effectively giving me full Razor Sharp, Charge Master, full Dragon, and Handicraft 3. In terms of the gear, we go with Arc Vulcan Helm Beta, Arc Vulcan Mail Beta, Guardian Arcfeld Van Braces Beta, Gore Coil Beta, Gore Greaves Beta. And with our decos, this is going to all come together to give us Burst at level 5, Wex at level 4, we have Divine Blessing, we have Antivirus up at level 3, we get a pinch of Coalescence, or excuse me, a pinch of Constitution, a pinch of Coalescence, some Convert Element is coming in, and we have our 1-point Earplugs, some Flinch Free, and Shock Absorber. Now, if you don't care about Earplugs, drop this out, max your Coalescence. That's going to allow you to pump even more damage. But this is going to pump out a lot of damage. Just to show what we get up to when everything is firing off. So our baseline here is 211, 5%, 540. And we will... I just gotta overcome Gore real fast. And look at the dragon explosions, man. We are up to 259, 30%, and we have hit the elemental cap. Now, it's important to note that we're hitting the elemental cap because Convert Element is giving us extra dragon. With weapons that are not dragon, you're not going to hit that elemental cap. I've done a couple builds where I can hit the elemental cap, but you basically need Burst 5, Coalescence 3, and then 1 to 2 points of Elemental Absorb. Honestly, most of the time, I don't think it's going to be worth it. From the testing I've done, basically to pull off elemental cap, you're going to have to sacrifice, you know, and we're already sacrificing a point of Wex here, but getting the elemental cap basically means like you're not going to have much other stuff. Like you're not going to have Wex or Agitator or anything really. So being able to go 5 burst, 4 Wex, and then the potential to get Coalescence to 3, I think that seems like a very healthy medium for the build, because we still have a lot of damage coming out. We still have a lot of crit that's coming out, but at the same time, we are maximizing our uptime potential. So either way, let's jump on into a hunt, show you what this thing can do. I almost forgot to mention it. For your elemental IGs, 4 element, 1 sharpness. Basically just like the swap compared to attack. And I did actually test this in terms of using an elemental IG that had 4 attack and 1 sharpness, and 4 element, 1 sharpness was pulling consistently ahead. In terms of those hunts, I mean, given there's going to be a little bit of variance, but I cleared roughly 30 seconds faster going for 4 element sharpness compared to 4 raw sharpness. So either way, let's talk to Alma. I think I have 1 left of him. I do. The last Rathalos. Because what better to kill than the fake King of the Skies?
Let's have another hunt with no surprises today.
Welcome back, little buddy. Oh, our Kinsect, by the way, we are doing an elemental Kinsect as well. I should have talked about that. But it's too late, we're in the hunt. I'll talk about it after. Alright, it's been fun, but I need you to come down. For those that are inevitably going to ask, the DPS meter is also on Nexus. Bro dead. Bro dead. Elemental damage go burr. It's a 233. It's more DPS than before. 85.9 DPS, yeah. Now, like I said, for Elemental, if you're doing Elemental, one thing I would recommend, and this is universal to playing Elemental weapons, when we go over here, Rathalos is a fantastic target, because look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different hit zones that are 2-star to Dragon. With something like Arcveld, not worth it for Elemental. Arcveld, just pump them with the element. Something like Yan, very much worth it. Good hit zones for lightning, good hit zones for ice. Something like Gypceros, really good for fire. But so, you know, take a look at weaknesses before you decide, hey, am I going to run Elemental against this? Because some things are going to be worth running Elemental, and others just have dookie hit zones, and it's not going to be worthwhile. But yeah, that Wrath got fucking smashed, bro. I rank Wrath in 2.5 minutes. IG is so good. And the other thing I should have talked about with the build, but just to show it real fast, I think we need to go into here to show it off, but for Elemental builds, I'd suggest you either run Monarch Alucade or Carnage Beetle, because they are going to have the high power and they're going to have Kinsect combo boost element, which means they are pumping out dragon damage, since I'm using a dragon ID with all of our attacks. So if you are doing, or you could use these two. These two are going to have recovery powder. They're not going to be as strong, but they will also have extract boost recovery, which is going to boost that green that you get occasionally from combos. So that's, you know, it's a trade-off. You're going to get more healing coming in with these guys, but they're not going to be pumping as much damage. But either way, that is the new and improved IG build. You know, I don't know if anything else isn't working, but I think a 230 Rathalos speaks for itself. So either way, up next, probably gonna, I don't know what we're doing next, but I'll be covering all the builds. I'm going to be updating everything. So stay tuned. Catch y'all soon with more.